For this upcoming project, I picked up 2 different kinds of wooden pallets from the curb for free. I pulled out usable boards from the first pallet and gathered everything for the build. To assemble, I placed the 4 pallet boards upside down with 1/8 inch spaces in between. Then I added the 11-inch cross support pieces and nailed them with 18-gauge brad nails. Turned the assembly over and positioned the 40-inch side pieces on either side of the cross supports, leaving a 3-inch overhang at the bottom. Once positioned, I nailed them in place. Finally, I placed the last pallet board on top and nailed it down. Once assembled, I stained the top with a color called Deep Forest. After it dried, I lightly sanded the edges and top to give a distressed look. I cleaned off the dust and applied an exterior-grade clear sealer to protect the wood. Once that dried, I drilled a 1/2-inch hole at the bottom of both supports and tied a rope through it. Then I glued on some decorative snowflakes and added a hook to hang some festive decorations. And here we go, a beautiful sled made entirely from pallet wood. You can decorate it for Christmas or winter and add it to your front porch for a festive touch.
Grab a pallet and turn it into something you'll be excited to have on your front porch this winter. I cut the edges with a cordless chainsaw, used a hammer to remove each piece of wood from the center, and then I pulled all the nails. I placed 4 boards together and drew the outline of a snowman. I roughly divided the board into 4 sections and made the bottom a bit bigger, going smaller as I moved my way towards the top. I cut the design out with a jigsaw, being careful to always cut away from myself. I cut an extra piece for the hat and 2 extra pieces for supports on the back. I quickly sanded everything. I secured everything together with a brad nailer and wood glue. I made a whitewash with white exterior paint and water and brushed it onto the snow part of the snowman. I wiped the extra paint off with a clean rag and then repeated the same process for the hat using black acrylic paint watered down. I added the bottom piece of the hat and secured it with wood glue and a brad nailer from both the front and back sides. I set it aside to dry and cut 9 rounds from a wood dowel, sanded the edges, painted them with the same black. Once dry, I attached them using hot glue, and then I cut a triangle shape with some scrap wood, painted it orange using an acrylic paint marker and paintbrush with water. I cut a piece of felt for the scarf, and now I've got a pair of snowmen that will stay alive all season long. I hope this inspired you to create your own long-lasting snowman out of pallets. Grab a sheet of plywood. First, I made a DIY projector from a cardboard box. Using a cell phone light, I projected the image and traced the shape of the tree, and then used a jigsaw to cut out all the details. To make a star, I drilled a hole with 1.5 or 1.25 inch drill bit. I cut the points of the star out using the jigsaw. I swept it, wiped it clean, and painted it with exterior white latex paint. I cut a scrap 2x4 into a point at the end and then screwed it down the center of the tree with 1 to 2 feet sticking out the bottom. Then I used a staple gun to attach white outdoor string lights to the back of the tree. And now you've got the best outdoor seasonal decor on your block. Bonus, it looks great during the day and the night. I hope this inspired you to create your own backlit seasonal decor.
Ever wondered what you can do with those wood slices from the craft store, or any wood slices someone might make for you with a chainsaw and a spare piece of wood? First thing you're going to do is grab wood slices of varying sizes. I happen to have some of these wooden stakes, so I am going to use this drilled into the back of my wood slices to hold them. I decided, because mine were pretty hefty, to just take a triangular piece of wood to use as a support in the back, and I also just attached that. I was going to leave these wood slices natural, but I didn't really love the look, so I got a can of satin indoor-outdoor spray paint in white, and I decided to paint just the front faces, leaving a bit of the live edge around the outside. Once I did this, I just got some craft paint and I'm brushing on the face, including the eyes, the mouth, the nose, and the buttons. Next, I went to go ahead and arrange them once the paint was dry, and I also cut some scrap material that I had to use as scarves. And there you have it. With a few Christmas lights in the back, you have some really lovely porch decor that can last you really beyond Christmas and all through the winter season.
This holiday project starts with a 1x6 by 8 foot long. Let's get started. We're going to take our first mark at 24 inches. Our next one's going to be at 20, and then our last mark is going to be at 16. We're going to cut each of these marks to give us 3 different lengths of board. First thing we're going to do is find the middle of each board. Go ahead and take a pencil and just mark it down the center. Now it's time to start outlining that Christmas tree. Now, some of you might go a little nuts on this because this Christmas tree is going to be a little bit different. I went with like a Dr. Seuss look. The next thing we're going to do is take a skill saw and cut out along the lines. I know in kindergarten we learned to cut and paint within the lines, but here at Hometalk we get a little rebellious. So if you're outside the lines a little bit, don't worry about it. After you get it cut out, the next step is to sand it so you can get off those pencil marks. Now, it's time to bring it inside, and we're going to go ahead and paint it. I'm going to do white on the first side here. Now, you can use any kind of acrylic paint or stain, but I wanted to give it some paint just because I wanted to do it with one coat. Now, got to be careful. We don't want it to go onto the unpainted edge yet. Once I got that dry and I turn it over, I'm going to paint the other side green. I'll show you why later. We're going to get this all painted up, and then we got to turn our attention to the base. This thing is 20 inches wide, and we're going to go ahead and stain it with our favorite color. You can paint it also, but I like to give it a stain, and dark walnut is my favorite. Besides, I had some sitting out in the garage, so it just came in handy. Once I get it all stained up and ready to go, the next step we're going to do is drill through it because we got to attach our trees to the base. So we're going to drill a simple hole in the back, simple hole right inside the center of the tree, and we're going to start with a little screw. And that's going to go right up there, but not all the way. Take some hot glue next, put it on the base, and we're going to put it right there in the center of the tree. Once that hot glue starts to set up, just go ahead and place that screw and hold it down. Next step is to grab some simple fairy lights. I routed out these holes earlier in the board and drilled the holes so that we're going to put all the fairy lights and just pull them all the way through. We want that fairy light switch to stuck to the base of the wood, so I put some hot glue there and just put it in there. As you can see, it's going to sit flush when it's standing up. Next step after this is we got to wrap our Christmas tree. Again, we're going a little dangerous here. We're not going to go straight across, but we're going to go up and at it with angles. Now, these fairy lights are really long, so watch this. Instead of going straight across, like I said, go at an angle all the way to the top, and when you get to the end, just use a little bit of hot glue to hold it in place. Now it's time to light it up. As you can see, on one side we got it white, and it's so simple because all you got to do is flip it around. And then what that does is that gives you something different to look at.